You're now tuned in to the Desire to Trade podcast, a show where we bring you the best figures of the trading world and teach you how you can become a successful trader. This is your host, Etienne Crete.
Etienne Crete here, Forex trader and founder of Desire to Trade. Welcome to episode 82 of the Desire to Trade podcast. So I spent the past week in Vietnam. I was in Hanoi, then Phan Thiet, and then Ho Chi Minh, which was really cool, really different from China. Now I'm kind of going back to China this week. At the time of this podcast being live, I'm going to be in Hangzhou in China, and it's going to be a whole different world, I feel. That being said, one thing I've realized over the past month and a half is really how different trading while you travel can be to just trading at home, right? It's totally a different game. And you cannot have the same methodology necessarily as when you trade at home. In this episode of the podcast, I've had the chance to interview Miguel Tiexiera, who's known as the traveling trend trader. He's a Forex trader who's been traveling a lot, doing cycling tours around the world basically, and trading at the same time, which is pretty awesome. He shared with me exactly how he trades while he travels and what are the things he put in place to make sure he stick to his habit and stay on track to his trading goals even while on the road. This is probably a must-listen podcast if you think about traveling a little bit while you trade, because you'll know exactly what you need to focus on and what are the things you need to put in place before you start to trade on the road. And I can tell you guys that there's a big difference, right? So this is really important. And Miguel made me realize a few things that I'll probably implement and I'll probably use for my upcoming trading while I'm traveling. And guys, this is really important also for the fact that I don't plan on settling down in one city. I plan to travel even more. I think this trip made me realize that I need to travel more. So I'll definitely go ahead and do more of that. So help me welcome Miguel Tiexiera. Miguel Tiexiera, welcome to the Desire to Trade podcast. How's it going today?
Thank you, Etienne. Yeah, it's going very well. Thank you.
Awesome. And I'll just go right in. The first podcast is, what is one quote that inspires you?
One quote that inspires me, I think it's one that it really helped me with my trading, and that was about great traders. In a market when it's quiet and range bound, they find a variety of activities to keep them busy. Whereas traders who do not tolerate inactivity well inevitably will find the need to trade often when there is no objective edge present. And for them, losing money is less onerous than experiencing boredom. And that is something that really sort of changed the way I was thinking about my trading.
I love that. I struggle so hard with trying to trade too much. Amazing. So yeah, I love that quote for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
So, what are you doing these days, Miguel?
Last year, I started doing live trading broadcasts, writing trading blogs, and then also learned how to program. So I spend a lot of my time doing research, doing the live broadcasts, writing about what I learn. And yeah, so that's pretty much what I've been doing over the last year. And now it's just continuing with my trading and carrying on with doing research ideas and obviously doing the blog posts and the trading broadcasts, which I do on Periscope and on Facebook Live.
So it looks like you have a big background of traveling and trading, which is going to be really interesting to talk about, I think. So, but the first question I want to ask you before we
I think so.
It's going to be, how did you start to trade exactly? How did you come in trading in the first place?
Yeah, I think from a young age, I'm not sure why. Probably my uncle was a stockbroker. My dad had a few friends that were stockbrokers, and maybe it was their flashy cars or something that attracted me to trading. But that was, I wanted to get into trading. And after university, I joined this brokerage firm. I suppose with hindsight, it was more a bucket shop than a brokerage firm. But I had some basic training, no experience, and I thought I could trade. I opened up a trading account, and within, I think it was about 4 weeks, I'd blown that trading account. But I still had, now I had no capital, but I still had a desire to trade. I was very hungry to learn, and enrolled in the Chartered Market Technician program. So I started studying technical analysis, and I did my level 1 and 2. over the next 2 years. And in that time, I just, going over the course material, used to look at a lot of charts and just study charts over and over, looking for patterns, that kind of thing. And it was 1997, I got a job with a bank. First started out as a technical analyst and then moved into trading. So I traded Forex and interest rates. And I did that for, it was about 12, 13 years. And in 2009, I left that job because I wanted to go traveling. So I'd had some successful trading, over that 12, 13 years. And now I just wanted to get out and travel. And the main travel goal, and I did a lot of shorter trips, but the main one was a cycle from Cairo to Cape Town, which I did in 2012. So that was an epic journey. I hadn't got back into trading at that stage, but I was thinking a lot about trading in that time. A lot of friends used to ask me, aren't you missing trading? And I was sort of missing the trading side. And in 2013, when I got back from my travels, I thought, I think I need to get back into trading. And so I started out again as a retail trader, a private trader. And starting off was a little bit different to what you experience at the bank. So probably the first 6 months I struggled along. But the lesson I'd learned from my previous, when I started out at the beginning, blowing that account, was that position sizing and risk management were the key to longevity in the business. So even though I was making mistakes, it was, the position sizing that was keeping me going. And then I came across a book on trend following, and that idea sort of resonated with me. It was both from the side of, from a traveling point of view as well, because it requires less work, if I can say. It's less trading. So that really stuck with me. And then I came across a community of trend followers, the Dynamic Trader, and I joined them, still a member of that community today. So mainly trade a trend following approach, and then along with some systematic models, which I've developed over the last year. And it was, the whole idea was setting up that I could travel with my trading. So.
The way you talk about it, it looks like you've been really, really working hard and growing a lot, to become a successful trader. So was there any time that anything to struggle with more than usual, or anything difficult you found?
Yeah, I think one of two things that I kind of struggled with, and it was probably some bad habits that I picked up in the bank. And from a bank point of view, it's not a bad habit. From a private trader point of view, weren't that good. And the one was, starting off being an analyst gave me an ego. So I was trading in the sense that if I put out a forecast on something, I wanted to trade that, and I wanted to be right based on what I was analyzing. So I had to learn to lose my ego. And the second one was trading every day. When you're in the bank, that's the job, is trading every day. And as a private trader, you've got that luxury that you don't have to. So it was stepping back and saying, well, there is nothing that's setting up for me today, so let me walk away. I don't need to trade. So those were two things that I needed to overcome. And once I got over that, it became a lot easier.
And I think the last one you just mentioned is a big one. And in fact, I had Daryl Guppy on the podcast recently. And the thing you said, the difference between being in a bank and trading retail is that you have the power not to take a trade when you're retail.
Exactly.
That's pretty powerful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was a big thing, definitely. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you a question that's really broad, but how do you trade and travel at the same time? What are the things you have to put in place to trade and travel?
Yeah, so when I started with the trend following approach, I was actually going on another cycle trip at that time, where I cycled from London to Lisbon. And the way I'd set that up was, from the trend following approach, it's kind of longer term look at things. So doing my analysis on the weekend, so putting in a few hours, depending on market conditions at the time, but it could take anywhere from an hour to a few hours, of then finding, I trade mostly Forex and stocks, US stocks. So it's finding opportunities there. And once I have those, I have my levels that I'm looking for during the trading week. So during the trading week, it's just a matter of every day after the close looking for those levels. If one of those levels is broken, it sets me up with a trade. I take the trade. But there's very little to do because I've done my analysis over the weekend. Mm-hmm. So that made things a lot easier, should I say. And from our systematic models, that is also something that's computerized. I just run the models, upload the trades to the broker, close up. I've got an API running that manages the trades. And all I have to do is every morning just run those models, generate the trades, place them with the broker, and move on. So everything I've done in setting up my trading process has been around making sure that I can do it while traveling, that I just need an internet connection once a day just to get through. So, yeah.
That's really interesting. And I think one thing I just realized is, well, I'll tell you a little bit how I do it these days when I travel. Is I'm going to look at the chart. Let's say if I'm going to trade a forward chart every 4 hours. And I think that makes it a little bit difficult because I used to trade a daily chart, which was easy, like it's once a day. But forward chart makes it a little bit difficult, I feel.
Yes.
And like my setup is really, really systematical, which is easy to trade. But I feel like forward chart might be the way that I'm doing it wrong right now.
Yeah, definitely. I also tried a 4-hour chart some years back, and I just moved to the daily charts and said, that's it. I trade end of day prices, and I'm not interested in looking at what's happening during the day. It's just not going to work for me. So,
right.
Yeah.
So you're going to go, let's say, looking at the chart in the morning, then going to travel, and then coming back at night, doing whatever you want, and looking back the next morning, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I do keep, my phone with me, and it's more that I can just see the levels. So if I just want to look at levels, see where they are, and then I know, okay, my level has got into a place where I could signal a trade, and therefore I'd need to place something for the next day. Also, if I look at it and say, well, nothing's going to set up because I know where my levels are, I could sort of take it easier. So typically when I was doing that London to Lisbon trip, I was getting up in the morning, going on the bike, and then looking for a coffee shop, stopping at the coffee shop, getting an internet connection, having a coffee, running the trades. And if I knew the levels were at places where I needed to place some trades, I'd obviously have a bit of urgency in finding that coffee shop. Otherwise, it was, okay, well, I'll find one when I find one, and off I go. So I think the big thing was just by doing the analysis on the weekend and then knowing where I stand and where my levels are that are going to execute during the week made it a lot easier.
And to me, I feel like and like you just said it in the beginning, but the biggest difficulty for me trading only a daily chart is that you're probably taking very few trades in like a week or a month, right?
Yes. I mean, especially on my trend follow model, if I look at, let's say, the last 6 months, I maybe have 20, 30 trades there.
Okay.
So, it's, and some of those are running from 6 months ago. So all I'm doing with those is either adding to positions or just trading my stops on them. And I actually got to a point now where I'm full risk allocation, so I'm not adding any further trades, just managing existing trades. So, it's an ideal scenario to be in to trade this kind of way for what I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the systematic model is just, because it's so computerized, it's easy to run. The homework's been done on it. Generate trades, place them, and off you go. Yeah.
I think whenever you travel, the best way is going to be to either scale up your time frame or scale them down, right? But I prefer scaling them up, so going on a daily chart.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
In terms of trading methodology, what are the things you look at apart from levels? Do you have any indicator or any specific thing you look at?
Yeah, it's mainly price action on the trend following model. So it's just looking for, it's either a breakout or a pullback trade. So if I'm trading the breakouts, it's looking at breakouts or levels, looking at support and resistance levels. I mean, that's a big thing for me is just trading around support and resistance levels. So looking for those, waiting for price to come into those areas, and then taking a trade based on having the kind of risk to reward in place that there's a lot of space that trade can trend for. You don't know if it's going to happen, but you're putting the odds in your favor by doing it that way. So if you have a level of support, for example, and you're buying from that level of support, where your exit is around the trade, and then as long as you've got enough room on the upside, it's just letting that trade play out and hoping for a good trend just to carry on going. So that's the main approach is support and resistance, really. Indicators on the trend following side is moving averages, using moving averages just to determine trends. But yeah, that's really about it. And also on my systematic models, it's quite similar. Obviously, it's a lot more, it trades more often, a lot shorter term. So it's not as rigorous, or how can I put it? It's an easier criteria to get into a trade. It's not, looking for kind of I have a lot of criteria that's, say, checking, got a checklist and saying, okay, I need this to be checked and so on, and I'll take a trade. So that's why it's so few trades that I get, but they're quality trades. Whereas the other one is a lot looser and it'll get more trades. But yeah, it does its.
Love it. The way you're talking now seems a lot to my strategies. It's pretty interesting. And do you ever find yourself struggling against the idea of taking many trades? Or do you feel like you should trade a little bit more sometimes, or no?
No, definitely not on my trend following models. Because I know what I'm looking for on them, and when they work out, it's set up the best for how it's going to make money for me. So I don't, at the beginning, I used to look for more trades, and then sort of realized that the more trades I was looking at, the more whipsaws I was getting. So I scaled back on that and took fewer trades, and those fewer trades turned into better trades. And I mean, typically, a lot of the trades that I'm finding to get more opportunities are in the ones already holding. So it's just adding on to those rather than looking for a new trade. And obviously on the systematic side, that trades a lot more often. So there is a bit of balance between how much I trade on the one side against the other.
One thing I've noticed from people who do trend trading is that oftentimes they don't really know, like the beginners I'm talking, they don't really know when to exit the trade. It's trends can go on for a long time, really a long time. So how do you decide to exit your trade? Do you have a set rule or something you put in place?
Yeah, I've got a volatility-based stop that I just trail it with.
Oh, okay.
And that's about, I have a few criteria where I may tighten my stops, but pretty much they just left to run from the levels that I set from the beginning, and then I just trail that as it goes along. And it is one of those things with trend following that people struggle with, in the sense, I think it is probably one of the most robust strategies you'll find. But at the same time, if you can't let that trade run, because and I had it at the beginning, was that feeling when a trade goes into profit, you're always looking to take that profit. You want to get out in case it turns around, or if it has a little pullback. And then you get nervous and you just want to get out. But once you get over that and you see those trends that develop and they go on and on, you realize that just by trailing it and letting it go on, it's more successful over the long term than worrying about those little ones that go in your favor and then come back and take you out at break even or a small loss or even a small profit. But every now and then you get those monster ones that you pick up some really good trends, and those make up all the rest of it. It sort of eases that psychology of trend following.
Yeah, I get that. And how do you decide to put more in a trade to add to the position?
It's just pretty much looking at breakouts.
Okay.
So if I get in on a breakout, and then I'll just wait for the next breakout to happen. The easiest, I suppose the most desirable is a flag pattern that happens in a trade. So when you see a lot of flags, you're just getting in on every breakout and running with it. Those are the easiest ones to trade. You don't see them all the time, but when they come, they're the easiest ones to trade. Otherwise, I've got pullback levels that I look at, and looking them to come back into those zones where they should find support. I don't know if they will, but just a methodology of saying that's the odds are good at that area to take that trade. If it goes against you, you get out immediately. If not, you get to ride the next wave of that trade. So.
Mm-hmm. And now doing videos online, and especially live videos, I feel you're probably getting a lot of response from people emailing you or telling you what they struggle with, right?
Yeah.
So what would be one of the top things that you need to teach them and that they struggle with the most?
To me, that's actually where I came up with the idea of writing that blog post that I've done on the path to trading success. So I start off that post with an equity curve over a 15-year period. And if you look at that, it looks pretty linear. Something that you say, I could trade that, it's pretty easy. But then I've gone and broken that down into a year-by-year analysis. So taking each year in those 15 years and seeing how that's progressed over time. So the biggest thing is patience. Besides, risk and position sizing, because those should be standard, but it's just learning patience, because over a period like that, you've got a methodology that's going to go in and out of sync with the market. You're not going to have something that's going to work all the time. And when it works, you just got to take those trades and make the money. And when it doesn't work, so say my models, they either get me into cash or I'll get whipsawed a little bit. So you just got to take those little drawdowns that come with it, be patient, and then wait for the next leg to come when the strategy goes back into sync with the market. So it's really, getting people to understand that you're going to have those periods where you're going to take losses. And you just got to, I think that was also something else that when I started accepting that I will lose money, changed my trading, because I think it was a book, Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas.
Yeah, a big book. Yeah, a big one.
Yeah, great book. Just saying, well, if I take a trade, am I prepared to accept the loss on that trade, the risk that I'm taking? If not, I shouldn't take it. And if I'm prepared to take that risk, then what's the problem? Place the trade and just let it go. And that made a big difference. So just accepting that you're going to lose money, and then just have the trust and the confidence. If you've done your homework on your trading strategy and understand how it works, then you will know that over time it will play in your favor, even though you may go through periods of taking losses. And really, I cover that a lot in those blog posts.
Yeah.
I've shown the years where you can sit for a year not making money. It's not losing money, but you stand on the side because it's just not a conducive environment for that type of strategy. So,
and I think developing patience to go there, like not taking a trade for, 6 months or like even a month, is difficult, right? It's not easy to do.
It's very difficult.
To work on it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very difficult. I think one of the things that made it easier for me was testing. So I've got an index filter on my stock trades. So I'm either in cash or I'm invested in the market. And when I tested that strategy and saying, well, let me try it if I traded all the time, the increase in the return was a few percent. So I would actually make a little bit more by trading all the time. But it came with an increase in the drawdown of double what I would without it. And then it sort of said to myself, well, what's the point of trading through these times where you're going to increase your drawdown? Rather just sit out, wait to get back in the market and make the money then. So yeah, it's difficult to stand aside, but just realizing that it's going to be better for your long-term returns is what makes the difference. You don't need to trade all the time. And I think that comes back to the quote that I opened with, is for traders that don't know how to stand aside, the losing money is less onerous than experiencing boredom. So, yeah.
Yeah, totally right. And one of the things also I struggled with at the beginning of my travel was this idea of like when you're at home, you have your habits and you know exactly like what to do and like order by order. But then you get to like a new city or a new place and like you feel completely lost. Like you don't know where to start, what to look at. So do you have any tip or any habit that you do every single day, even when you travel, that help you?
Yeah, I just, I've set a process. And although you're out of your comfort zone, it's just following that process. So mine is written out. So if I have to get it out and read it to go through it, so I find myself in a foreign place, I know what I'm doing, but just to pull it out and say, this is what you need to do in order to be successful. So just follow through with it, even though it may feel odd.
Yeah.
It's not an easy one, but you just got to, do that. I think that the time differences also make an impact on what you're doing, because I know now when I set up I've got my VPS running with the trades running, that it's at my time zone. But if I move across time zones, it's changing that to make sure that it's reading the correct time and not switching me off when the market's still open or something. So it's just changing the computer settings to make sure that I'm getting all of that right. And that's really the difficult part. Just following the process.
Have you found some places that are more trading friendly versus not trading friendly, or how do you see that?
Yeah, it's the first thing when I look at places to travel is the internet connection. So if there's a chance that I could go through a day without getting an internet connection, that place would sort of be scrapped from my places to travel. Europe was pretty easy to get through. You was getting internet connection. I couldn't have done it when I was in Africa. That would have been more challenging. In Thailand, there's a lot of good connection around, but there's also places that struggle to get connection. But yeah, generally I just try and find places where I'm not going to have that issue, and then rather just go there, because I know this is how I need to make my living, and I can't change that. So yeah.
I think that the place have an issue now is whenever you travel, like whenever you take the train or take the plane for one day, you kind of lose all contact with the internet, right? So it's kind of hard.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Hopefully it doesn't happen too often, so it's good.
Yeah.
And I feel one of the big also problem is that most people listening to this are going to say, well, okay, it's good like you travel, but I cannot travel right now. Like I have a day job, but they do want to travel, like that's for sure. So what advice would you give those people who are starting to trade? They want to maybe take this full time at some point and hopefully travel the world at some point.
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I would suggest this to anybody, whether the goal is to travel or not, is when you're starting out to trade, is make sure you still got an income. So you still got your day job or whatever other form of income you're getting. Because the early days are not that easy. You go through periods where you don't make money, you lose money. And if you're relying on trading income to get by, it makes it even more stressful. So you've got to build yourself up to a position where you have enough savings that can cover you for, I don't know, whether it's 6 months or 12 months of living expenses. Only when you get to that point, and at that point you're trading profitably, would I suggest then moving out and saying, well, now I can quit my day job and take on trading full time. And when you say you get into trading full time and you maybe go through a few months where the market's not quite doing what's in line with your strategy and you don't make money, you still have that savings that you can live on. And it really eases the stress. So if you wanted to do it without having that behind you, very, very difficult. And I would highly recommend that someone doesn't try that.
Even if it's going to be either like more savings or another stream of income, that's really, really helpful for sure. Anytime.
Definitely.
Even if you're going to trade even if you're going to be super experienced and trade full time, having multiple streams of income or savings is always the way to go, right? For sure.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a few property developments that I'm doing. I currently just started with one yesterday across the road from us where I live. So yeah, I'm still getting income from other sources, and it takes pressure off your trading really, because you can go through times. Again, that's something in the blog post that I highlighted in 1 year without making any money. You didn't lose money, but you didn't make money. So if you're relying on that, it's not going to work. That's
a big one. Yeah. And I feel most people are not prepared to live that necessarily.
Yes. Yeah. It's really about that patience and understanding that it can happen, and you've got to set yourself up for it. So yeah, it's about managing the risk really. And one of those risks, beside the risk you're taking in the market, is the risks of not being able to carry on with your trading because of not having sufficient income or savings from another source.
And is there any guideline as to what kind of saving you should have, like a percentage of your, like daily living expense or what?
I would recommend at least 6 months, 12 months, preferably. If you can go through a year without having to dig into your trading, that you can get by, that should be pretty comfortable for most people. And again, I wouldn't recommend that from the get-go. So if you didn't have a job and you thought, well, let me get into trading and make money that way, and you're only starting out, probably not a good idea, because it's probably going to take you more than a year to get comfortable and be consistently profitable as a trader.
Not that it's impossible, but I personally find it's very difficult to trade without having any income, right? Also, it's really difficult, right?
Yeah, definitely. It puts a lot of stress on your trading because you start making decisions on your trading related to what you may have to pay in a personal expense. So, as long as you can keep your trading purely mechanical and based around the trading decisions, and not an outside decision, it's going to be better for your trading over the long term.
Love that. Love that. Any other advice you would have for people, or anything you want to share with them? Anything you want to teach them, possibly?
Yeah, greed is another one. I think that was one of my big mistakes at the beginning. Was I was counting what I was going to make on a trade. And I was reading the fundamentals, looking at charts and thinking this thing. I was trading wheat at the time, and it was trading in a range between, I think it was 480 and 520. And the fundamentals were saying this thing's going to 7. If I looked at it from a technical point of view, it was in a consolidation that should have broken higher and gone higher. And the more I read this, the more I said, I need to add more and more positions. And I just kept on averaging losers and just getting in at an arbitrary place in between this range. And, I was just counting what I was going to make. I forgot to look at what I stood to lose. I've always been quite conservative in that approach, is looking at the risk. And that one just did not look at it whatsoever. And the one day it just spiked down, got me out at my stop, and that was the low. And from there it went on to $7, and that was pure greed. So, and it was probably a good thing that it happened that way, because had it gone up from where I was, I would have learned the lesson that I can average losers and just take trades, and I would have made money. So I suppose it was good that I got stopped out, and it taught me a lesson about manage your risk, manage your position sizing, always count what you stand to lose, not what you stand to make. And that will stop you. Yeah, it'll stop you from taking stupid trades.
Oh yeah, I love the way you're seeing it, because most people would be probably angry, or maybe you felt angry at the time. But yeah, looking back, seeing it better.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Love that. Yeah. So how can people find you?
Website, tradermig.com. Otherwise on Twitter, @tradermig. On my Facebook page, Traveling Trend Trader. Those are the easiest ways that you can get hold of me.
Awesome. And we'll actually put the link in the show note for all your resources and all things, other places where people can find you, for sure.
Brilliant, thank you.
What kind of goal do you have for the future, Miguel?
Yeah, I think it's basically carrying on with what I'm doing at the moment and just building my capital. That is my main goal, is just to keep on growing the capital. Carry on with my research. I've been doing a lot of research and just trying different trading ideas. You always want to keep things current, keep them going. Strategies that you may have might fail in the future. So just keeping things going. So always just learning more. I'm also helping new traders with the broadcasts that I'm doing, the blogs that I'm doing. I think there's a lot of useful information that you can take for those. And then just doing trading coaching. I found a great satisfaction with people that where you give them a few tips and they go on to succeed in trading. You get a lot of satisfaction from that. And from a personal point of view is just doing a bit more traveling. I actually got a trip for later this year, if it works out, doing a cycle around Lake Victoria, so Rwanda, Burundi, around there. So we'll see if that turns out. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Those are very kind of active travel, right? You're not like going to the beach and sitting there all week, no?
No, it's on my bicycle, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And speaking of trading ideas, I don't know if you're like me, but like whenever you hear something new that you want to try, like you have to try it, right? You have to test it or see how that works. Yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty much my reason for learning programming, because I used to sit and try things and you try and back test it manually, and then you see something that you could try and you have to go back and change the rules. And as soon as I learned how to program, it just made things easier. So sometimes I think a lot of traders are like this. You wake up and you think of an idea, and then whenever it is 6, 7 a.m. in the morning, you're ready to go and code that and try it out and see what happens. And go. So, definitely.
Crazy, yeah. I love that. Yeah. And what would be your main motivation to help traders and travel and keep going up in your trading? You have one thing that motivates you a lot?
Yeah, it probably comes from two sides. And the one, I don't know if it's really motivation, but what keeps me going is I really enjoy the trading process. Trading itself is not really, I couldn't really say the trading because I do very little, but it's more the research, like fitting pieces of a puzzle together. And I really enjoyed that. So keeps me motivated is just having the passion of doing that.
Like
and secondly,
right?
Exactly, yeah. It's when you get that idea and you try it out and it works, there's a lot of satisfaction in that. And similarly, getting the satisfaction from helping other traders, giving them ideas, helping them change. There might be one thing, I've seen it a few times, where one thing is holding a trader back, and you just sort of give them an idea to change that one thing, and gives them that aha moment, and it gets them on with their trading. So that brings a lot of satisfaction.
Yeah, oftentimes it's just having a different perspective, I feel like, an outside perspective on trading that really helps. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
So, Miguel, just to remind people, all the show notes are going to be on desiretotrade.com. So if people want to find the links, everything's going to be there. And we have a question we ask the guests at the end of every podcast. If you could give only one piece of advice for traders, what would that one sentence of advice be?
Easy one. Be patient. I think, position sizing, risk management are the obvious ones. You've got to have that in place, but just be patient. And the patience really, it's not going to be one sentence anymore, but extends on a few levels. And firstly, just be patient with yourself. It takes time to learn how to trade. It's not something you just pick up and within a few weeks you're doing it. It's going to take time. So just be patient with yourself and stick through it. And then once you've got that system that you're working on, that process that you use that's got an edge, is just being patient with it from the point of view of when that strategy comes into line with the market. Again, something you don't know, but you have a rule for it. If this and this happens, then my strategy is trading. If this and this happens, I won't trade. But it's just waiting, the patience for that to happen, and then waiting for the correct setup. And then when you're in it, is having the patience to stick with it. Especially from a trend following point of view, is when you get the setups and that trade starts running, you just got to let it be patient and let it run, keep it going, and just those levels of patience. And lastly, just with the strategy, it's not going to work all the time, so be patient with it and don't give up. There's a lot of traders, and I did it at the beginning with system hopping. So you try one thing and say, it doesn't work. Try something else, it doesn't work. Whereas if you had just stuck with it over time, that would have worked out. So it's just looking at trading from a longer term perspective and looking at results over, let's say, a 3 to 5 year window or period, rather than looking at it over a week or a month. Because a week, a month, even 1 year is not a good time frame to judge yourself as a trader. You need a lot longer time frame.
That is huge. I love when guests kind of go on because they're so passionate about the topic. That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
So, Miguel Tiexiera, thanks so much for being on the podcast. It's been a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Etienne. Thanks for inviting me on the show.
All right, so that was it for the episode with Miguel Tiexiera. I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in to the podcast every single week. If this is your first episode you're listening to, well, thank you for listening until the end. I hope you're going to check other ones. Don't forget that there's over 80 episodes now, all on desiretotrade.com, which means you can find a lot of resources from a lot of different traders. And the goal of all this is to help, so check it out. I want you guys to get results. If you're more of the experienced listener, let's say you've been listening to a few episodes, I hope you're getting engaged in a Facebook group. This is a community that has been growing exponentially in the past month, and I'm super happy to see that. It's a place where you can post questions and get answers to anything you need at this point. And with the number of traders we have in that group, I'm pretty sure you'll get answers to anything you ask. So check it out at desiretotrade.com/group. That's a short link, and you'll get straight to the Facebook group. On that note, I'm going to enjoy my last week in China, and I'll be going back next week in Canada. But as always, I'll see you in the next episode of the Desire to Trade podcast. Ciao.
Thanks for listening to the Desire to Trade podcast. To get all the information on this show, free articles, and unique resources, make sure to check out www.desiretotrade.com and subscribe. Please leave us a review and let us know what you thought about the show. It's time to become the best trader you can be. See you next time.